Could you help me out on the other machine as well to enter in that password? Also, right. Thank you.
Time does it start?
6:30, I think.
Probably like the doors open at 6, but probably gonna start like after 6.
Just wanted to get to the thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, password over the Wi-Fi. You just connect the Wi-Fi.
Apparently, Chris.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first time at this location.
My first time.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ben. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Right.
Nice to meet you.
Interesting location. It's my first time here as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to find it. We turned around several
started.
So I guess where is the 7? Well, thank goodness there's reception time.
Yeah, it's putting across directing in the right direction.
I used to work in the Coffee Tower 1, so one of the other silos here. That's my first time being, over here. So it is a company, right?
Yeah, you know, they do sell furniture, but the good thing about Wayfair there, they actually are doing a lot with augmented reality.
For furniture placement.
Exactly. Right. So they're really cutting edge in that area. So after my name's Ben. Hi, Ewan. Nice to meet you. And yeah, I work mostly in medicine, and I do a lot of training. And I've been doing a lot of VR medicine training. So, anything I can learn that gives a different angle on it, I'm always interested.
It's always fascinating when you do these kind of events.
Right.
Because, there's so many new technologies that are evolving and emerging right now. Oftentimes it changes your worldview if you see something different. You're like, wow.
Right, because only if you went to like which one was it? The Boston AR meetup.
I went to,
And they had, they were talking about what Wayfair is doing. They had someone present it. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize that. They actually have this whole facility where they scan all the furniture. And then they use that and they send the digital files to another location where they actually make it as part of the catalog and the whole augmented tool.
So for your medical stuff, are you using mostly HoloLens or?
Right now, we have a team that's doing HoloLens. I'm actually currently on the team that's working with 360 video as part of the VR. But I've been looking to enhance the 360 video I've been working on in a couple of ways. One is that actually developing some software that allows me to have like hotspots so that to navigate within it. So that's one of it. And I noticed that if you take the 360 video and put it in Unity, you can actually create more interactivity that way and like start adding 3D objects and so forth. So
Have you seen Facebook social?
yeah, they've
It's like
actually
360 video and then there's like models
right.
right in the middle. It's like a movie background basically.
Yeah, so I was thinking, well, maybe I could do something that's kind of hybrid of the two,
What are you using to capture 360 video? I was looking at their setup here.
Right, I've actually seen that camera. Is that the Morai or something like that? Yeah. The camera is 4K on it, and that one can do live streaming.
Okay.
Actually, I was pricing it out not too long ago.
Do you have any idea how much it goes for?
Well, when I looked at it last, I believe it was around 4,000 a kit. Plus, there's a whole.
Okay.
There's
So
like
it's
a.
comparable to Omni.
Yeah, there's a whole other box and accessories that goes with it to get it to work. I've actually been looking at the Insta360 Pro. It just hit the market. It's basically like a little globe. It does all the stitching in camera, and it's
One lens or multi-lens?
it has multi-lenses. Yeah, I think it's 8. It actually does about 8K. It can do live 4K, but it does about 8K if you do it if you render everything in
So
post.
for the live, does it go through HDMI? I know it's put up at HDMI.
I have yet to see it used and read a review about it.
Because I mean, obviously the bandwidth is.
Yeah, exactly. But it's, let's see if I can find that one. The okay, let's see. I think it's called Insta360 Pro.
I got a Theta a while ago. Right?
Yeah,
So
there we go.
consumer version,
Yeah.
The quality is very poor from video.
Well, that's a nice thing. I'm kind of in a position where, like, if I evaluate something and put into, getting, either an evaluation unit or just get them to buy it for me.
That's always a nice option.
I always play, if I can justify the cost of it. Like, I do have a Theta, the black one. There was two. There was the very first version. One of my colleagues bought it, and I was like, that's good, but the recording times are too short for anything I need, and there was a few other issues. And the one that came out after was a little better.
I think that's one I have.
And
too.
that's the black one that came out. And yeah, see, this is the Insta360 Pro. And it just started to ship. They announced it like back at CES and this week's NED. So they're supposed to start shipping it, but I have yet to read any reviews if anyone's got one in their hands
I mean, one of the things that I've been waiting for is the whole structure of light sensors.
Yeah.
So like with Matterport, similar kind of.
Yeah, I actually picked up one of those not too long ago. No, I picked up the structure.
Oh, okay. From Structure IO.
Yeah, and because I was thinking, like I said, I've been looking into ways to integrate 3D 360 video into my spheres that I create.
And I think that's the next evolution because it allows you to actually step forward and back. And
Yeah, and I literally was just playing around with it the other day because there's a little app that works with the structure sensor that attaches on here, and I was just it literally arrived like 3 days ago, so I was trying to find every app that works with it, and like I was shooting this video of my daughter just to see how it works, but it definitely separates everything. And kind of pulls it apart so you can navigate around things.
Yep. But the scanning takes time, right? So
No, this was in real time.
Oh, really?
This was actually as easy because if I look into the one thing about this, it records also into your photos. So like that same video, so you can see what was recorded.
So that's a point cloud.
Yes, the point cloud with the sensor, what it's recording when it's on here, and then just the regular video from the camera. So what it really seems to be doing is like, when it has the depth that it's recording, it maps that image over each layer and gives you a sense of depth that you can move
I'm
around.
surprised it actually can do that sort of like real time.
Right.
I mean, the previous demonstrations I've seen of people like, I can actually see the scanning of the mesh.
Right. But this is the video app that I only found out about once I had the thing. I was like, oh, what apps can I use with it? And because I was like, okay, well, let me do a keyword search on like volumetric video and see what works with the sensor. And this one app does. Everything else is more of a scanning tool for like stills. If you have like a solid object that you're trying to get a 3D scan of, whether it's a person or an object or whatever. But I was interested in trying out the video. So this actually is not too bad for a video tool. The only thing but the thing is, once I started searching for that, I found resources for other tools as well, particularly with the Kinect. I was surprised how much is out there for both the 360 Kinect and then the version 2, which came out for the Xbox One.
I heard the version 2, there was some level of detail, inconsistency.
Yeah, it depends on the software you're running with it. Because yes, there are some issues, but it seems like some versions of the software, like there's this product called, in fact, there's this product called MIM. Let me see. Let's just tell you it's off on this. That my Wi-Fi. There's a product called MIM or MIMSys. Mindset, that's my mindset. I've been reading some of these things. It's been an active week with NAD. So, Mindsys. Yeah, that's it. Been there recently, so. So this product, Mindsys VR, they allow you to download their SDK that works with MIDI. And with it, you can do but that actually reminds me. They don't have any demos on their site, but if I go under the, was it Sketchpad? Right. Sketchpad. It is Sketchpad. Okay. Right, and then if you do a search for Mindsys. Oh, that's right. I did have a problem running some of these plugins. Let's see. Here we go. But we'll see if it even runs. So that's the catch. But if you do a search for them for Mindsys, this shows examples of the what you do with that SDK that works with the Kinect. It's usually version 2 of the Kinect. think these files are fairly large, which is why like I've been having trouble running them on my iPad, but they run great on a computer. So, but I noticed it actually catches even more detail than the structure sensor on the iPad. Yeah, and it may be because the space of the Kinect is like further apart. Yeah.
There's probably less jitter because I don't imagine them moving it around like that.
Right. So let's see. But anyways, this is probably going to be a while. But yeah, if you go to Sketchfab and look up MimSys, there are a bunch of samples in there. I'll just show the thumbnails here. But yeah, and if you open them, they're actually video, and you can totally navigate around them. And this particular one is kind of an example of where they have the human that's captured with Kinect, that he's a 3D model, and then they drop him inside a 3D virtual world. So you have the live video of the human and the 3D rendered world. So it's actually pretty cool. So there's a lot to play around with that's out there.
Do you know if there's any software that combines point clouds from multiple sensors? Because obviously any video like this, they're hollow. You can look at it.
Yeah, that's one thing I've been researching as well. If the Kinect is the sensor, version 2 has a limitation in its actual drivers that it can only support one at a time. So, but I believe
have two separate systems.
yeah. So what I've noticed that when I'm trying to read the threads of what people have been doing, they literally have one sensor coming from one computer and so forth. There are great motion capture systems that use the multiple devices, but when it comes to actually recording video and doing full capture, I have yet to find a solution. But who knows?
It seems like the next
Exactly.
step,
And who knows? I mean, if it doesn't happen soon, I may actually. My coding skills aren't that great, but who knows? I may find someone who can probably do it. And then let's see. So I think drinks.
there's a beer fountain over there that we've been making use of.
Oh, it's a fountain. Okay. I'll be right back. we actually have one at work as well. And yes, they are using it for some really cool things for medicine. But right now, it seems like everyone's using it for medicine, using it for like virtual anatomy. And that seems to be the and I'm wondering like what else can you do? You know? So that's why I'm asking these questions. So would you simulate it by somehow morphing like the parents?
Which one?
I think it's the one towards the very end. He's actually the other one, then he's like colorless.
That's okay, because I have this. So I'll be okay.
Yes, where they're talking to someone. But that means also that on the other end, someone has to be in a room where they have all the they're not great, but it does allow you to get some depth just from a person from forward.
Yes, because they can recognize your gestures.
Right.
But now,
There's no depth on each person that if you're looking at the same environment. If you're looking straight on, you can see side to side, back, and variables of depth of where they are. But when it doesn't capture like
yes.
they're kind of like just
Yes, you just have the front side.
yeah, it's like a where they turn and they're like empty. So I was wondering.
Yeah, well, I'm technically part of the program.
Maybe we can collect the
Because I ran my own
average body data, and we just build some prototypes, and then we just look at people use the system,
Yeah, we could
and we can add some unique features to this
We have like
prototype we have already created, and then it makes it much more easier. So you don't need to scan everybody.
Right.
Yeah, you just typically set some characters and to put physical data, some visual data on
So that would be kind of like what they're doing here, where like we create these avatars and maybe use something like a command to animate. Which is part of the reason why I wanted because I was wondering if there's a different approach. I haven't thought about to do this where okay, maybe the person is but I'm working with like a structured or structured sensor and doing these things and so forth and way. And I'm
generate
Cafe.
AI projects. So, but also my thinking is not natural.
Well, that's fine because it's a fast speed. And sometimes you have to be able to think out of the box okay, to be able to come up with a good idea. Because there's a lot of directions. So, like, I've been doing a lot with 360 video of late, and it's good, but it's not really VR. And so I've been looking also into using like volumetric video, which is also known as the light field video, which has kind of got me looking into, you know, most of these sensors that capture more data than just video. And then that because like Unity recently so then if you use that kind of like as a background, so then you can actually start putting 3D elements in it that are interactive where you can put as well as putting certain hotspots in the space where someone can like either touch a 3D object or a hotspot a way to navigate so that say you press this, you either go through the door or you go into the other room.
I mean, here's the thing about as far as where you are, like usually 50%.
These 3D models.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
That's both of them.
Yes.
So, you know, kind of like thinking, because we were possibly kind of working out about this, and VR is great as far as interacting with it. But the production level and the time spent looking real
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like in that.
I mean, well, it takes weeks a month
Yes.
just to make one project.
Yes,
You don't
yes.
have those kind of time frames.
Yes, yes.
So that's where the video comes in. I can actually create material in half a week or two. Shoot it, edit it, get it out to people. But then it's like, well, what do we do next? We want to have more interaction. We want to be able to have people maybe move their heads around and look at, you know, okay, yes, this is not really computer, but in those scenarios, there's a lot of people. There's people running around and all kinds of things. I mean, I've literally shot several and you know, YouTube has the whole like Japanese like this one is
So I mean, you wear it, it's uncomfortable because obviously
operate as a base. Like, I don't know, where I've done some training situations, so it's, for example, and then if you're wearing it in a headset, you can move around. So it actually has been pretty useful. So there are times when I'm thinking about what if someone wants to be able to say, well, what's happening on this screen? You need to be able to understand, or what's happening, what's he doing there? We have to start.
If you want to create any objects with multiple people in objects,
Right.
you want it can be interactive.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just doing this with 360 as a training person. But you always have to think about, well, what if you need that this didn't look like what needs to be your service? And that's why I'm trying to think, okay. But yeah, that's pretty. And so right there, this was it was challenging because I had to in the end because I have a bar, but I didn't I didn't put it right on the ceiling. I put it to about eye level, so that the camera is like just a little higher than the guys who's up at that. And the only reason I could do this is because we didn't use a real person here. We had cameras, but they signed off. They had to create avatars, but it was a real major thing to do.
Yes.
The ones that I have that are the because it's the head. So this allows you to follow the action. But it's still becoming like games that do just like with VR.
Yes.
The advantage of it is that you have these spaces, like whether it's a VR situation or whether it's this. If you have to train, like we haven't passed that far. You have to train 150 you may end up doing like 50 times that scenario in the end because you can only fit so many people in the ER situation. You have to go maybe about 25, 30 times just to get to the whole class. Because each everyone
Yes.
do it, and they can then either, take it out and have different outputs. But this is so bright. Which allows you to, like, when you're putting people in an environment, like, we have a couple of scenarios where we're doing things on the road. What if, say, there's a gunshot or sound of someone doing something outside, you're not looking that way.
Yeah.
You can hear that there's someone screams at you. You can now turn to the screen.
Yes, yes.
Because you hear them. So
Yes, yes.
and so that's the great thing.
I don't know, maybe the more I listen to it,
Because you don't have the way to really drive the viewer
Yes.
I mean, I think
vision,
Yes.
you can drive from the sound
Yes.
of where to go. So you can sound, now have the sound right. Well, if the sound is here and I'm looking there, I know enough now to do that part. Working with certain things, I like to see how other people address these challenges.
meetups that we're opening up for, and there's a guy who's going to speak actually, John Parsons. His team is from more developers that are doing web development stuff. Yeah, we're not part of it.
Yeah.
Was.
Or, yeah, I mean, the person
Yeah,
who
so we're
well,
gonna-
that
I
works.
just wanted to know
But maybe there's some effects.
for,
Right here.
and so people
Talking about relaxing.
but then I went to work, then from there, I went to work that developed,
I mean, now recently they're like,
and I was the executive director of development. They run on fire sale, and all of the technology was sold and all anyway. So the whole Manhattan street,
which is like hard.
development.
right in your way.
I can see it. I'll be able to hear. I'm gonna have to say. Whatever you guys need to do.
Not a zombie. Yeah, I mean, the mayor could come in and come to your meeting.
Like a joke.
Yeah. Like demo class is gonna be. I haven't done
I'm with BostonVR. I help co-organize with Craig.
Sweet. I'm Colin. I'm from Light Insight.
Nice. Nice to meet you.
To meet you too.
Excellent. Perfect. Well,
Oh, sure. Go.
let's talk during the demo. Yeah, let's chat.
Sure.
Up to now.
Shirts.
Huh?
I want one of the shirts.
And I have them too. So
Excellent.
Yes, if you want. Oh, nice. You found our YouTube feed. Or is it a different one?
Well, if you want, you can just find everything that I can ask other things.
get people's attention, get them quiet down.
Right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Everyone quiet down, go ahead and get started here. So I'm Craig Herndon, the lead organizer of Boston Virtual Reality. And tonight we have a gracious host, Wayfair. So they're actually going to come up and talk. Jonathan Parsons from Wayfair has a few slides to go over. He's not in the room, is he?
He's here.
Oh, there we go. Awesome.
Hi everyone, thanks for the introduction. So you're probably wondering what I'm doing up here. My name's Sean, I'm on the product media team at Wayfair. So the work I do, I hope you'll realize after I give the presentation, kind of unlocks like Wayfair's ability to use VR. I personally don't know much about VR at all, so like I'm kind of out of my element. But you'll, I think what you'll do is you'll find my work interesting, and it's very related to your field. This is better.
Yeah, keep close.
Alright, so you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Alright, so I didn't say anything else, so I'm starting my presentation right now. So all I'm trying to do is give you an overview of what my team does and how it relates to what you guys do, and so how it relates to like Mike and Shrenik and the people on the Wayfair Next team. So the high level overview is that my team takes, we ask contractors, modelers to model our furniture in 3D. And we take the models in, and my team's responsibility is to basically QA those models and make sure they're accurate enough, they're like a good representation of the product, and then that kind of unlocks the ability to use those models in cool ways. And so I'll go into a little details, the whole like VR, AR, like how those models are actually used. We haven't quite figured out. We have some really cool apps that are like kind of experimental, but that's the overview. I hope that makes sense. Hopefully you guys understand like what the different types of models are. This is the overview of what my team does. What I'm trying to show here is kind of the complexity of what my team does. So we take the .max models in, and as far as we know, we're kind of like the first company to ever kind of productionalize this idea of like taking a .max model and then rendering it into 2D images and then QAing the model and then creating downstream. So I guess we're not the first company to do all that work, but we're definitely doing things that we don't think have been solved before, which is, you know, producing 2D images of 3D models at scale. And again, the whole point of this is to QA the models to make sure they're accurate. And it's hard to QA. We can't have like our Wayfair employees put on headsets and QA them in actual 3D space. So what we do is we create 2D images of them. So you just go through the four steps. So first thing we do is we take the models that the supplier gave us. We use Python for this because in the early days of rendering, we were having like a lot of crashes because 3ds Max is not built for like high volume, high throughput. So we use Python to kind of monitor this process of like opening the model in 3ds Max, setting the lighting up, cleaning the model, because we're getting these from like 10, 15, 20 different contractors who all have different kind of ways of making these models. So then we get the model ready, and then we kind of rotate it and put it in different areas, different directions, and render a 2D image of it. Those 2D images, so that rendering is also a kind of hard to do at scale because not hard, but we've had a lot of learning because rendering is inherently unstable, as you guys probably know. Things crash all the time, so we've built systems to like basically requeue these things and try them again if they fail the first time. So what we're trying to do here is take in like hundreds of models every day, render about 8 images per model for all of these products, and then put them on web pages, and then we have Wayfair employees look at the web pages, look at the 2D images, and see if they're accurate enough. And if they are, then we have like a 3D model of our product, and then we can use that however we want to. And that's where Mike comes in. This is just an overview of the system that I've built over the last 9 months. I hope you'll agree it's complex, and I hope this doesn't. If this interests you, I love this kind of thing. If it interests you, come find me afterwards, because this is the kind of system we built to deal with all this. Jenkins is just like a job scheduler. Yeah, there's a lot of like Wayfair kind of specific
Like
stuff
some guy
here.
at receptionist.
He might do a better job on it.
Domestic servant.
Right. And so it says like head 2 and head 3. You guys don't know what that is, but it's kind of irrelevant. Yeah, that's pretty much it for that slide. This is just a few screenshots of like the web pages we built. So basically, my team is all web developers. That's where we came from. Like that's we work for Wayfair. We've kind of been not forced. We've been, yeah. We've had fun learning kind of like the 3D side of things. Like it's been really fun. And so, but anyways, we're web developers at heart. And so these are kind of the screenshots of web pages we built to QA these 3D models in 2D web pages. So you just kind of see, this first image is like all the images we render of it. We also take this thing called a dimensional render, which is just basically to highlight the dimensions of it. And then you see like the bottom right there is like a real image that the supplier gave us versus a rendered image. So the person can see like what the reality is versus what they gave us. The top right is just showing you a way of giving feedback to the modelers. A lot of these modelers are not in the US, they don't speak English, so we've had trouble like kind of telling them like exactly what we mean when we say like give a different shade of brown. So this is one of the challenges we're trying to solve and get better at, is how do we communicate to these modelers like what is wrong with the model and like what they should change. For that. And now for the cool stuff. So basically all what I just said was like what my team does to QA the models and make sure the models are good. After that, you can do whatever with the models. One thing we've done is create like an open API that anyone can hit. You can use with GraphQL. You can also just hit it with a normal endpoint. But you can get back our FBX models. And also we have web viewers. Like I guess this is kind of showing you like there is like a potential for Wayfair to monetize these, to make these 3D models accessible in a web page. We've kind of proven that. Right now it's a little slow to load and everything. It's not perfect, but there is a lot of potential there. And I didn't put anything near AR VR because you guys, I don't want to get out of my element there. You guys know more about that. But there's huge potential in that area for the furniture market, we think. We don't know, but we're pretty sure. And if there is, we're going to be the first ones there. And then this is, if you're wondering why Wayfair bothers, or Wayfair is able to spend development resources on these kind of things, this is your answer. What we're doing with the models right now, besides like putting them in VR and AR, is rendering 2D images of them, and we put those 2D images on site, because 2D images are really powerful for selling furniture right now. So this is a great example of one of our 3D artists making a room scene to match an actual real image. So one of these images was made in a photo studio. It was very expensive to do that. They had to order all the products there, put them in a room, get the lighting set up, everything like that. It also took a 3D artist a long time to make the other one, but it's much more scalable. So does anyone have a guess at which one is the real one?
Right.
At first I heard a lot of left is real, but then you guys switched.
That's fake.
I'm just going to show you. Left is real. can switch. Right is real. So right costs $1,200. It's crazy, right? Like you can't tell. Yeah.
On that chair on the right, that way. The way it's on the other one is the way a furniture designer would use that.
Think so?
John, next time I'll switch them.
Oh, no. Next time I'll switch up to messy. No, but so clearly this is done deliberately by like a 3D artist. So like he was told to match that picture as best as possible. So it's a little bit like a bias, but like the point is you can do really cool things with 3D models, and like we're just starting to figure that out. My team is kind of the team trying to like unlock this potential, do a lot of cool things. I really like what we do. If you're interested, come find me after and I'll tell you more about it.
And shop our site and find all these pictures, right? Stuff like hanging
Yeah,
out.
well,
See if you can pick out the ones that we rendered.
We have a lot of these images like hanging around our site, and you might not notice or know unless you're, unless you're really good.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. If it wasn't apparent, we're hiring for John's team right now. We're trying to grow our capabilities. So again, thank you guys for coming. This is Wayfair. We try to be involved in the Boston community, and I'm Mike Fester, for those of you who don't know me, the chapter president for the VR/AR Association. We're doing a live stream today, so you can wave hi to the camera, and maybe in 10 minutes, people actually see it. It's been funny, like, this is our first experiment with, like, live streaming 360, and the delay at first was a few seconds, then it was a couple minutes, and now who knows where it is. Anyway, we'll try to do that at more events. It's working, yay. All right, I'm going to hand things back to Craig, and thank you guys for coming.
Question for you. How does this relate to the photogrammetry team that presented last year?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so my team Wayfair Next has like two sub-teams. One that does like mixed reality apps, so that's like the Google Tango and the VR stuff that you've seen. And then we have a photogrammetry team that does the 3D model generation. And then John's team kind of supports both of our teams by taking the models from scanning. We process them through his system. And then the VR, AR apps basically get to use that data on their end. So they're kind of like, doing a lot of the plumbing for us to connect everything and make it happen. Great. Yeah.
Awesome. Great photo there, John. I expect Wayfair to come out with which dress is real? Is it the white one or the blue one? All right, so our next speaker is Morph 3D. And so I'm actually working on a project that we'll talk about after this that's actually integrating Morph 3D. So when I found out that they were in Boston visiting, I was like, I have to meet these guys because I'm having a whole lot of problems. They've been super receptive and have fixed like 95% of them and are still working on the rest. But it's really cool. So in VR, we talk about identity and how do you bring your culture into VR? And I feel like these guys do an amazing job of kind of tackling that problem. So I'll turn it over to them.
Well, thanks. My name is Jesse Janzer. I'm the lead developer for the Morph Character System, which is part of the Morph ecosystem. If you guys aren't familiar with Morph, it is a sister company of Daz 3D, which is basically a avatar system. So they've made a fortune building avatars and selling clothes. They have a huge artist network, and basically they've created a series of content that we're now taking from render time. In other words, it's very high quality. There's like iRay rendering and Daz 3D that we can't do in real time. So we're taking the content from Daz and producing it for real time. And part of that, we've developed an avatar, which is the Morph system. And it's part of three main components. There's the Morph system for the character. There's an artist tools, and I'll be talking about both the character system and artist tools and demonstrating that in a few minutes. And then we also are building a platform called Ready Room, which is a system where we will take characters and produce them in different systems. You can take them to other worlds, other applications. So part of why Morph matters is essentially creating content is really expensive. It's super, super expensive. If you want to go create a current figure today, you're looking at several thousands of dollars just to produce a static figure that is basically real-time ready it's designed by a professional artist, it looks good. If you want to create content for that, it's very, very expensive, and you don't have a system that's basically interchangeable. You can't take the shirt that I'm wearing and place that on a figure that looks a little different. It just doesn't work. So we basically spent a ton of time building all this technology where you can take your character, and if you want your character to look like a 5-year-old, you just drive them down to a 5-year-old, and I'll demonstrate that in a few minutes. So you can take existing clothing that you model once, and you bring it through our whole pipeline, and now it works on the entire figure, regardless if it's a 5-year-old or an 80-year-old, or if they're heavy or thin or whatever you want. And what we've done is basically build that entire ecosystem, and it's available. You can download it right now. All of the tools that I've been talking about are free. So the Morph system right now is free. The artist tools is free currently, and ReadyRoom is free as well. So what I will demonstrate is basically what Morph does. So Morph is a plugin for Unity. I assume most of you guys are probably familiar with Unity. You can see our 2 avatars that we have right here. This is the figures that are based on, if any of you guys are familiar with Das 3D, they're based on the Genesis 3 models. We're building additional figures as well, and they are our core pieces that we have. So we have a base male figure and a base female figure. We also have different ethnicities that we're going to be releasing very soon, as well as we have a system for like in ReadyRoom that Ben's going to show you. There is a character that looks like a comic book. It doesn't look realistic. So we have an entire system for managing. If you want photorealism, we have your answer. If you want a comic book system, we have your answer. And eventually, you'll be able to produce your own figures and run them through artist tools and get that content into our system. And as soon as you have this, you have a figure that will work in real time. And it works in VR, it works on Android, it works on iOS, it works on the Wii U, it works on PlayStation. So we have tons of support. We're also going to move towards other engines as well. So we currently support Unity. We're in development for building additional engine support like Unreal. So if you build in other systems, or even if you have a custom engine, sometime, I don't want to have like exact dates, but probably sometime next year we'll have an answer for you. So in this particular case, I'll show you basically how flexible the system is. So if you select a figure, so this is our male character. I've already put clothes on him, but we can show different clothing. So if you don't want, let's say I want to remove the vest from this character, just a simple button, and this is all controllable through a script that we have. If you're familiar with Unity, this is an inspector window that has our editor script. Our editor script has all the source code available. It's kind of a good demonstration of the technology in a way. If we make this call, you can make the call too. So in this particular case, I just disable the vest. It shows the t-shirt underneath. And the hard part to see is actually there is a system that prevents showing the skin through the clothing. Part of what we demonstrate is the reason why we're called Morph is we can actually morph. So when you morph this character, if you had a normal static geometry, that t-shirt is modeled one way, and as soon as I drive an additional morph, that t-shirt normally would be static and it wouldn't conform. So this is if you drive it down to a 5-year-old. So in this particular case, it's the exact same asset. We haven't done anything special. We just run this asset through the tooling. Now the important part is the tooling is actually available today. So if you model that t-shirt, you only have to model it once. So if you want a child in your game, or a goblin in your game, or basically any character that you want, you can change the nose, you can change the ears, you can make them elf, you can make them fairy. We have a solution for that. And so the interesting part is we have a system that there's all these different problems that we came across with Morph. We had to solve a ton of problems like how does that clothing work? When you drive that down, or when you drive the figure, if you increase the breast size of a woman, you obviously don't want anything to poke through, right? So you have to have systems in place to prevent all these different problems, even the systems for the hair. So we've invented all these different technologies, and all that stuff is available today. And in order to get this content to drive through, we used to do this stuff internally. We had a huge pipeline. It was a very complicated process. We used to be able to produce a single asset in 1 week. Now we can produce an asset. If you're a competent artist, you can take an asset in about 2 to 3 hours, design that asset in something like Maya or Blender or whatever, export that out and bring it into another tool called Artist Tools. Now, Artist Tools will actually take this, and it does all these complicated things. It will take this t-shirt that I'm showing you, and it will run it through runtime projection. And basically what that does is you drive morphs, and we have to alter that clothing. That clothing has to reconform to the shape of the figure. And it will also do things like we have a system called alpha injection, which is basically how we visibly hide the skin behind this character. So when this t-shirt is driven, there's actually no skin behind here. We actually hide that. And we have different technologies for solving that. We'll probably be seeing better systems in the future for how we work on that. Because right now it's done in the shader. If you guys are familiar with shaders, it's done in the GPU. With Ready Room, we actually invented a new technology that actually removes those polygons, so it's even more efficient. That will probably be coming pretty soon in the next couple months. So we have another tool called Artist Tools that I can show you right now. Let's see if I can remember where I put it. If this shortcut works. So Artist Tools was recently released. We had it in development. We thought we would be done with it. It took forever. We announced it a long time ago. In fact, we were in Amsterdam not too long ago, and we were like, we're right around the corner. And we just ran into problem after problem after problem. There were so many problems that we had to solve, and it just wasn't simple. So the nice thing is we finally released it. It gets better every day. It was designed around Maya originally. So if you are a competent Maya artist, you can go through and create your model currently and run it through Artist Tools, and it works great. And then the first complaint we got was, what about Blender? So we actually brought a Blender contractor on. They came to Salt Lake City. If you guys aren't familiar, Morph 3D is based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. And we actually brought them in-house. They spent 2 weeks with us, and they helped us out because they were a great modeler. They knew Blender in and out, and they walked us through all the problems. So Artist Tools gets better every day. In fact, we release updates fairly regularly for this tool as well. And in fact, if any of you guys produce any content, you have any problems, you can personally contact me or Ian, who's in charge of Artist Tools, and we'll help you out. So for Artist Tools, you basically create a project. It's like any other system. So I'll create a new project. In this case, I have a sports jacket that is a puffy jacket that is modeled after a popular brand that I can't mention. And what we'll do is we'll create a new project, and I will call this Puffy Jacket. So I make Puffy Jacket, and it's very difficult to type with one hand. I'll create that, and you start with nothing. So I need to import a geometry. In this case, I have an existing FBX. So I've used a tool like Maya or Blender and exported that stuff. So I will find my model. Let's see, here we go. And I'll bring in my code. So this will import. We actually have a runtime FBX importer that we built. It's based on Autodesk SDK technology, if you guys are familiar with that. So once I have my model in here, it's unmaterialed, like it doesn't have a material, so I have to create the material. So it has the default system for, if you guys are familiar with FBX, obviously someone is familiar with FBX. There's a base material that it comes in, so we do bring in some of that stuff, but you still have to load and assign our stuff. Artist Tools and MCS is based around a physically based rendering setup. So if you're familiar with PDR, this will look very familiar too. If you're not, then that's a 20-minute PDF you can read about from Disney. It's a really good read about that whole workflow, or Marmoset, in fact. So let's see, there's a way to import images. These are all the images for this that an artist has already produced. So if you're not familiar with this stuff, we have different channels for different images. There's an albedo channel, there's normals, which is basically where light points, and there's an occlusion, specular, and that kind of stuff. So this fits in line with what essentially the workflow for PDR resembles. So I'll bring in my coats, materials, and they will now show up in here. So this is the untextured material. I'll bring in my albedo, the metal or specular map based on your workflow, our normal map, and we also have an occlusion map. And I will save this material. Whoops. There we go. It's always easier with 2 hands and not like 100 people staring at you. So now I have this stuff, and basically what you want to do is you want to define a new item, which basically, you can have submeshes if you guys are familiar with submeshes. I'm not going to go into all the technical stuff in this particular case. I'm just going to call this puffy jacket. So puffy jacket defines a single item. And in this case, it was modeled after our base M3D male character. We have 2 figures right now. We've experimented with doing agnostic figures, but it's not as easy as we hoped. And so we're still, you model clothing around a specific gender. Eventually, we may have a system around that. We'll also have additional figures in the future, and Artist Tools is going to support custom figures shortly. Well, we hope shortly. It'll probably take longer than I expect, but that's how everything works. We'll also bring in our LODs, which in this case, the artist has pre-done the LODs. At some point, we'll have a LOD system handled for you. So if you're not familiar with the level of detail, it's basically, this mesh originally was done in ZBrush, so that it was a very high poly mesh. We're talking probably hundreds of thousands of polys. It was eventually baked down into smaller meshes. We also utilize technology like Simplygon, if you guys are familiar with Simplygon. So now that I have these systems, oops. And I may have just, there we go. I'll save my mesh, oops. And we'll define this as a cloth item, which is important for the MCS ecosystem. So now our jacket is defined, we go into something called what we call pre-flight, which gives you a preview of it. You can look at how the system would work as far as how would it fit on this figure. So you designed this stuff in mind, you based it around our current figure, and then you see the results here. So in this case, we actually have to go process a few things. This is where I talked about doing runtime projection and alpha injection masks. So we do in fact, I'm just going to run this now because it takes a few minutes. What is happening right now is we actually have our current system for MCS is about 400 more. So things like, I want to drive my ears and I want to make them look like a fairy, or I want this character to be tall or short or fat or thin or young or old. And what it's actually doing is it's going to go through and generate all of those morphs. It's doing that in real time right now, so you can see it processing these things. Thankfully, this jacket was done by a pretty good artist. It won't take that long. But it will also generate what is very similar to an occlusion mask, if anybody's familiar with occlusion mask, and that is our alpha injection system, and that's the part that will hide the skin. So as soon as this is done, it looks like it's about done. So it takes approximately one to 2 minutes to begin your stuff. You can export, and it generates an FBX from you, and now it's ready. It's basically MCS Vive. So we have a proprietary file format called a Morph Resource format, or .mr. This is actually going to be a streaming format, which is actually very neat because right now all of our current ecosystem revolves around FBX. If anybody's familiar with it, it's actually very difficult to get an FBX in at runtime. Unity solves this problem for you because they already have technology that imports FBXs in other systems, but it's only done in editor land. So you have to be a developer, you have to have the Unity toolset, and then you bring the stuff in, but you have to be doing it during the editor time. So if you're a customer, or you're just playing a video game, you can't do that. You actually have to have a whole different set, a whole different stuff. So the Morph Resource format, along with what we're building, is going to eventually be streaming, probably this year, where we can have our content come in at runtime. You don't have to do any asset bundles in Unity, if you guys are familiar with asset bundles. Basically, the stuff just works. We've simplified the whole process and streamlined it. So now we have our puffy jacket, and I will, if I can remember where our project got saved, I can bring in the puffy jacket. So let's see if I can remember. Let's see, puffy jacket, exports. Here's our MR file. This is really difficult with my hand. I'll bring this in, now it's going to import. Now the interesting thing about this is we actually have to do all sorts of weird compatibility checks here. This is actually why it takes a little bit of time. So we actually bring in our Morph Resource file, and it comes in and it will reconvert the blend shapes. Behind the scenes, everything is done through blend shapes, which if you guys are familiar with Maya or Blender or deformers, that kind of concept, you'll understand what that is. So when you drive fairy ears, it's actually blend shape that moves things. In addition, we also have this system called joint centered transforms, which is a little bit different than just blend shapes, where we actually rescale the bones. So when you drive a 5-year-old, you're not just getting a blend shape that makes the face look like a little child. You actually adjust the bones, and the bones reproportion themselves into the system. It's actually, it's pretty interesting. In fact, how it works, it's called our JCT transition system and inside of NCSP. Maybe you guys are familiar with that process. So here's our puffy jacket. It's now an asset. We've generated our asset right here, and this is also difficult with one hand. And there's your puffy jacket. So this asset was, there's no tricks here. Like, it was literally modeled for the adult figure, and in basically what the span of 2 minutes, we took our existing piece of content, and now it's working on a child. And this is an ecosystem that is now utilized in ReadyRoom, which is a process that Ben Hessen is going to talk about, and he's the lead developer of ReadyRoom. So that, hopefully his stuff will work on the display, so we'll have to give him just a minute. Oh yeah, yeah. Yes, in fact, right now, I totally even spaced the whole performance part. So if you guys are familiar with the original Morph that was done at launch, that was 1.0, it was actually really slow, like really, really slow. It was really bloated. I think loading a character was about 200 to 250 megs of memory. We spent a ton of time in optimizing that. Part of it is that we have instanceable characters today. There are some gotchas though. Once you drive blend shape, and part of a problem that we're solving today is how to get that stuff where we can still instance those characters. The second you drive a morph, we consider that a unique new system, and so you'll get a duplicate of that. So at some point in the future, we'll solve how we basically pull those morphs together, and they'll sit in a global space, and they won't be copied. But by today, like if you pull down 1.63, which I think is the current release that we have publicly available, you will get some of that stuff. Is that what you were talking about for instancing? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering, are you planning on adding capabilities now with the proliferation of 3D scanning technology, getting down to even consumer level of letting people throw scans of their own face on these models?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Ben's actually worked a lot more on this stuff.
Okay.
We're definitely interested. It's actually one of the most requested features.
Of course.
I don't want someone else in my world. I want me. Like I want how I look. I want to.
Well, it's identity. You're saying it's identity, so let's have the identity.
Correct, and we are working on a solution for that today.
Okay.
Did you get your stuff set up? Does anybody else have any other questions? We're good. We'll also be available afterwards. We're out front if you guys need any further questions. And here's Ben.
Awesome. Okay. Who here are developers? See your hands. Okay. Artists? We have artists here. Cool. Who likes VR? Who came into the wrong room? Okay. So ReadyRoom, the overall purpose of ReadyRoom, where we're trying to go with it, is something for everyone, for all of you, right? Whether you're a developer, whether you're an artist, or whether you just like VR, we are trying to cater to you. We're trying to give you an experience that we don't think you can find anywhere else right now. ReadyRoom is a application that lets you go and customize an avatar. You don't have to be a developer like Jesse or an artist and go and create things and then create your avatar and have that avatar be you in a virtual environment. Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's good.
Is that better?
It'd be better for these.
It's because it's we switch.
Yeah.
Kill the other bagel lights.
Yeah, because it's washing out the screen.
It is washing out the screen, and it looks a lot better on my computer. I'll tell you that right now. It's cool. You guys do that. So let me get into this. I don't have tons of time, but our ReadyRoom right now is actually two applications. One's a VR application, the other one's a desktop application, right? Utilizing the same type of technology that Jesse just barely described, the Morph Character System, and then using content that, in this case, it came through our DAZ ecosystem, But in theory, you could also have content coming from the artist tools, right? Somebody goes and models a shirt, and they could bring it in, and eventually we'll be able to bring it into an application like ReadyRoom. Thank you, that is so much better. That looks so much better. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so here's a guy that I made. Actually, I did not make. Who made this one? Somebody here for the demo. Somebody did. All right, I'll find you. So let me go here. I'm gonna make a new guy. And we're gonna call him. We're gonna call him Ben. I'm not full of myself. I just want to call him that. And we'll go through and we'll just kind of randomly choose stuff. Like Jesse was talking about, we're trying to support what we call styles. Right now, we just incorporated what we refer to as our Nikkei style. So it's kind of a more stylized. We even have textures to support that, right? So you have those hard lines. It's not as photorealistic. And then I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to start customizing body. We're going to go like that. We're going to go like that. All right. And keep in mind, this is just a small piece. Like Jesse explained, we have over 400 morphs, right, as part of the Morph Character System. We took a subset of those, and then we took a subset of that, and that's what we've put in ReadyRoom right now. We're slowly going to be adding more and more customizations. So what you see right now is just a small portion of what you're going to be able to do. Keep in mind, this is available right now on our website. You can go download ReadyRoom and use it. So I'm going to bring the eyes in, eyebrows down a little bit. That's my guy. All right, so let's add eye color.
It's a little angry.
He's not angry, he's misunderstood. Goodness gracious. All right, so there's my misunderstood guy. And I am going to give him that hair. And I'm going to look a little bit cooler. Yeah, there we go. Scroll through. Yeah, that's fun, right? What do we think? Yay or nay? Good? No? Good? I don't know. Better with pants or no pants? Okay, okay. Yes, the pants. No to pants. So judgmental of people who don't understand. Okay, so there's my guy. There's Ben. He's pretty cool, right? You can see I made. Let's delete. Here's other ones that I made earlier. Just quickly went through, made some figures, right? Let's go back to Ben. Yeah, that's been a cool guy. All right, so the cool thing about this now, if I was hooked up to my Vive headset, and please come out after we're done to where we're set up out there, we have this hooked up, you can then go into our ReadyRoom, our VR application. We give you the same types of controls that you just barely saw, right? Like you can go and change your shirt, you can look in the mirror, I'm changing my pants, and I can see in real time as my pants are changing, right? I can grab my hip, and I can move that hip height. In real time, I can watch my hip as it's going up and down, right? And then, who's familiar here with social VR? Anyone? High Fidelity, AltSpace, VR Chat, Project Sansar, there's a lot of them. Right now, we're currently partnered with VR Chat and High Fidelity. And in our ReadyRoom application on the VR side, we're soon going to support this also on the 2D desktop side. You can then go and walk through a portal. You create your avatar, right? Super simple. I just went through, hit a couple buttons. I have my custom avatar, right? I walk through a portal. We bake out your avatar. We close down our application. We open up their application, in this case, VR Chat or High Fidelity, and we put your avatar in there, right? For us, identity is everything, right? There's no reason why I have to be in multiple applications creating a version of myself to represent myself, and then I have to leave that application and then go somewhere else and then have to do it all over again, right? It should be the same every single time. We make the same decisions that we make when we get up in the morning, we dress ourselves. For us, in VR, it shouldn't be any different. It should be the same type of thing. I wore this shirt because I liked how it looked. Somebody else maybe doesn't like how this shirt looks. That's fine. Why should VR be any different, right? The cool thing is that we're utilizing this giant library that Jesse talked about from our sister company, Daz. And so we're working on getting you thousands, tens of thousands of items to choose from so that you can go and customize whatever you want. Create a character that you feel like symbolizes you in the virtual space. Whether that's you're a man and you want to go into the virtual space as a woman, or I don't care, it doesn't matter, it's you. You do what you want to do. And the cool thing is, the reason I asked who are developers, who are artists, is where we're going with this is not just adding more content, but we're eventually going to open it up so that we want other developers to be able to use what we refer to as our Morph ID system, so that other developers can create experiences like a Ready Room, and then you utilize our Morph ID system, and then you can create your own type of avatar creator, right? And as a developer, we're gonna let you monetize off of that. We're gonna let developers and artists make money using our tooling. You just stick it in your application if you're a developer, you suddenly have custom avatars, and if people are using it, you're making money, which is awesome. So everybody wins. So this is our Ready Room, right? We want people to be whatever version of yourself that you picture yourself, if that makes sense, in a virtual space. And I want all y'all to play with it. If there's issues, let me know. Email me, come find me after.
What's your email?
My email is ben@morph3d.com. My inbox is going to be flooded on lots of spam, thank you. So yeah, so come find me. We're constantly improving this. Like I said, over the next couple of months, we're going to be adding more and more content. We're going to be upgrading our system to stream in content, right? We're going to make it so that you download Ready Room once, and maybe the next day you go in, there's going to be more content in there. And you didn't have to download anything else. It's just going to bring it in, right? Your wardrobe is going to continue to grow. Anyway, does anyone have any questions? No questions. All right, I'm just kidding. Yes?
Is it available on the Rift yet?
It is. Some people have used it on the Rift with success. We do not officially support it yet, but it is very high on my list of support. Right now, it only works on the Vive. One of the other most requested things is to be able to go to portals from the desktop, right? So you can just be on your 2D desktop and you can suddenly go into a high fidelity or VR chat. And then as well, we're going to be supporting mobile here pretty soon. So you could be on your iPad on the train, dialing up your character, and then you get home that night, you plug in your Vive, and there it is. And you just go to town, go meet your friends in your social VR experience. Yes?
Okay, I have two questions. First,
Only one.
we know that this band is here. Where is that band? Is that on your desktop, or is that in some service that you control?
So, both. I mean, he's here on my computer, but the makeup of him, all the information that makes up what he is associated with your Morph ID account.
Okay.
So I could go in and log in on Jesse's computer or someone else's computer, and suddenly he's there, right?
I do have one.
Okay, you can answer your other
So,
question. Short.
the other question is this band obviously has an
He's
attitude.
good looking.
He obviously has an attitude.
Misunderstood.
So are there attitude adjustments?
Damn. You have accent.
Well, I mean, is that resting bitch face?
Better?
No, I mean like the
I will not be
motions and stuff
accepting
too,
questions
and-
about the face and the eyes anymore. Yes. Sorry. And then you. Yes.
You mentioned, thousands of shirts.
Yes.
Picking them one at a time could be
Correct.
very painful.
It will have a major UI update. Keep in mind, this iteration, we came out with this about a month ago. It was just, we wanted to get it in the hands of people as soon as possible with all of its flaws. And one of those flaws is the UI is horrible. And I completely understand that, and we're in the process of fixing that to make it a much better experience for you to go and choose from thousands of things. Yes?
Is there any portability of signature gestures or animations?
Any portability of signature gestures or animations?
Well,
Not
like
yet.
Ben's wiping his forehead every 2 or 3 minutes, so like, what else have you got?
That's what I was getting.
You want more animations?
I like
recently got in touch with the motion capture system, and we're actually in the process of building that kind of stuff that's going to solve that exact problem. So those animations will actually, at some point in the near future, actually be included, and that will be different idle animations that you can swap out.
Is there anything you can draw on from the DAZ library?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of the DAZ library, obviously you're familiar with it, is
wiping your forehead.
That's also true.
I thought he was wiping his nose.
But most of the DAZ library is actually poses. In fact, I would say the vast majority of it is for posing systems. A lot of people, they take the existing DAZ content, they export it, and they bring in something like Motion Builder and develop systems outside of it. So we can utilize some of the existing stuff. If you're familiar with DAZ, you can actually bring those out. If you're familiar with Unity, you can actually import them in. Because Unity has mechanism, they just work.
Right. Yes?
I got a question. So blend shapes are known to be like RAM monsters, you know? Like when you plug in so many of them, they just start to bottleneck the memory. What is the application of this for future mobile development?
This is for you. This is part of MTS.
So this is actually why we developed, internally we developed something called 1.5, which was our original release of MCS, had all those blend shapes baked in. You had, I think, 300, if I remember correctly, 350. That each one, because it was a full thing for like a LOD 0, which is 30,000 polys, was, don't quote me on this, 1.5 megs, or 1 meg.
Plus all your clothing, right? You're going to have 350 morphs or blend shapes for all your pieces of clothing.
Yeah,
Decimate it down to the outside form.
So
you would very, oh sorry, go ahead.
So like so how does it perform in mobile? Did you guys get to test it out?
So that's where we're at today. So we internally made a release called 1.5. If anybody was on the beta list, they got access to that. There's now 1.6 that's publicly available, and we solved that problem. So in 1.6, in the previous thing before you saw Ready Room, when I had the figures as the base figures, they had no blend shapes on them, 0 blend shapes. So their mesh cost, and this is another, don't quote me on this, is somewhere in the realm of like 5 to 10 megs, if I remember correctly. Yeah, probably. Someone's gonna call me out on this. When I drove that 5-year-old morph, it then added another meg to drive that, just for that LOD 0. So in the case for mobile, you have to be a little careful about what you do. But we will have a solution for baking that. So once you're done, you will get to have a system, and Ready Room is part of that solution, where you'll actually, let's say I don't need to be able to drive dynamically a 5-year-old. I just want faces. I just want a few motions.
So you don't have to worry about all the blend morphs that's for it.
Correct. Artist tools and Ready Room in the future will solve that exact problem. So then you'll bake your final mesh. You'll have your facial animations that you would traditionally have in a game, or you might opt to use bone movements instead, or both, and that's how you'll get there. And that's available today, so 1.6 does have all those optimizations outside of baking.
Yes.
I guess, so when you were modeling the original Puffy Jacket, for example,
Puffy Jacket.
you were using the standard model that you had made. Is Ben here comprised off of that so that the morph knows to go from this to Ben? And then if, say I made Ben as my new model and then I wanted to build things for Ben, when I build them, and if I was building them modeling off of Ben, is it easily translatable back and so forth, or is that?
Yeah, it's a tough problem, right?
Okay.
So in that case, the figure that you see right here, that was done by a very talented artist in Salt Lake. They made this system called Nikkei. Nikkei was a standalone figure. It wasn't re-sculpted from Genesis 3. That's our base figures. What he then did, and what we would like to do eventually is automate this process, is he took that and he morphed this character and he matched the male figure. Eventually Artist Tools will take care of this. That's all he had to do. He made one morph. So he had one blend shape to get it down to the original thing. Then what he did is he ran it through our tooling, and our tooling created all this additional blend shapes. So in this particular case, you could model, and not today, but in a few months, you could model Puffy Jacket for this guy. And we will deproject that Puffy Jacket, because we know you would say, this is the model, this is the figure that I sculpted around. So let's say you sculpt around a child. You create a piece of like Oshkosh, and you design a pair of overalls for that little kid. And it's way easier to sculpt knowing what your target is. You don't want to sculpt a kid's set of PJs or whatever on an adult. It just doesn't work. And so what you'll eventually be able to do is bring in that figure, you create a custom figure. We'll then deproject that because we know how to get back to our base figure mathematically, and you'll have it. Now, the further you go, you'll have a little bit of precision issues. You might have to make some corrections. We already know that because in the original tooling for DAS, if any of you guys are familiar, there are artist corrections. You can go through and tweak. So when we do projections, it's not perfect. It's close, it's good, and in many cases it's fine. You don't need to make a lot of changes. But we do know that an artist will be, they'll get picky. They'll go and say, no, that zipper got a little bent or crooked. I don't like that. So yeah, we're very aware of what
That's
these
what I was
problems
gonna
are.
ask next is, do you currently have, or are you planning into the system to have it that you can, as you're modeling something out and you let it take something, I built it on Ben, and then I want to take it to 5-year-old Ben, and it is dealing with overalls, right? So the overalls, the Oshkoshes on 5-year-old Ben will be fatter and thicker than they would on adult Ben. Can I say lock this transform on this part of the model, but then let the rest of it become active depending?
Yeah, that's what we're going. So we actually have there's a concept called rigidity maps, or what we might call projection maps, which is basically you're going to be able, as an artist, going through and paint. You might say, I don't want this button to scale. Like the button's the button. I don't care if I'm an adult or a child. It's always 1 inch. So you can go through and vertex paint that button and say, I want you to reposition this, but I do not want you to stretch it, or I want you to rotate it. Let's say you have a hard breastplate, right? You're building a piece of body armor. You want the breastplate to actually, maybe you want it to bend a little bit, right? Maybe you want it to conform just a little bit, but you also want it to rotate. And we're currently working on that technology.
So it'll be very similar to the same way of painting inverse kinematics, just how all that stuff is done.
Correct. It'll be, if anybody's familiar with painting skin weights or any of that kind of concept, you'll be at home. Yeah. Oh yeah, it depends.
So,
oh, we have to end. We'll be in the front. Oh, go ahead. We'll do one.
Is this about just the avatar, or can we randomize this in this case from crowd or not?
Correct. You can randomize this. In fact, there's a whole bunch of scripting stuff. I could go on for hours about how you could do that. But that's the whole point, right? You can instance these things. You could bake them out. You could say, I only need these 5 morphs for the whole crowd. That's how I'll make my diverse characters. And the goal that we have is you have one mesh, one copy of memory, and we're working on that technology to make it so you only have 1 instance of memory. But yeah, we'll have that crowd concept probably solved not too long. So, and then I think we gotta go. We'll be in the front. You're out after. Thank you.
Awesome. They're actually just around. So if you're on this corner, there's a little hallway. They're right over there if you want to try out their demo and ask any further questions. So our next presenter is Craig Herndon from Digital Precept.
He
All right,
becomes.
there we go. All right. Wow. Yeah, totally planned that. All right, so our game is Kung Fu Shadowfist. It's a reimagination of old side-scrolling brawlers. So games like Double Dragon here are our inspiration. And there we go. All right. That's it. All right. So next, Streets of Rage, another big one. So that was actually the one I played the most. And yeah, so to give you that idea of like what kind of genre you're going for. And we kind of asked the question, what does this genre look like in VR, these old arcade, scroll, beat 'em up kind of games? And it's like, how do you bring this to VR? And VR brings its own set of problems that are not easy to solve, as I've learned while trying to work on this. And so people come in with all these different perceptions, and you kind of take them for granted that how much like hearing or needing to hear or see, getting feedback to know what you're doing. Because like when I touch something, like there's a whole lot going on here of just like even the vibration, the hearing, I'm feeling it here, and with all of that, like, it doesn't translate as well in VR, so user feedback is very difficult to figure out how do I tell it, because right now we can't do it exactly like it's done in the real world. And so the 2 basic things is you can either push it or you can pull it, right? So that's where the duct tape analogy comes in. And so one of the best games that I've seen that kind of takes into, how do you do the user right? And you just kind of anticipate what is the user expectations, and you kind of meet them. And so Alchemy Labs has done an excellent job of that. You can go up to the copy machine, scan your brain, and then just boom, there it is. Brain comes out. So a few things. Everyone's heard VR make you sick. So if you're intoxicated, that's going to throw off your inner ear here, and it's going to make you a little bit dizzy. So just don't drink in VR. And so one of the things that we do, like if you play our demo, it's only 5 minutes long, because right now people in general don't want to spend 2, 3, 4 hours in VR. They just kind of want to spend 10, 20 minutes, take a break, come back. So you have to kind of think of that when you talk about how long your experiences are in VR. So when it comes to like making big gestures, or just like going all the way around or making them reach for things, people don't want to do that and actually get tired very quickly. So what you want to do is kind of have the general user interaction in this torso space. So the fidelity contract is when you have the relationship between user developer and the user and their expectations. And so when they bring in their own perception of the real world, they kind of expect it to work that way. So for one example, there was a game that had a very awesome park kind of area, and you could do all sorts of things. You could kick the soccer ball, throw things, everything was interactable. But if you went to the fireplace and looked at the grill, there were hamburgers, and people complained about the entire thing that the hamburgers couldn't be flipped. And as a developer, you're just like, why would you even want to do that? But people they're actually going in seeing am I in VR? But as soon as that can't be flipped, you've now broken the fidelity contract, and they're taking, oh right, I'm in VR, I can't do everything I can do in the real world. So it's very important to try and keep that immersion going. So the next thing is locomotion and how do you move around. So budget cuts was one of the first ones back when the rules were still that you don't just want to teleport instantly. A lot of games do that now. But at the time, you had games like this. There's another game where you put a hat on and then it teleports you to the next location. But these are one of the early kind of motion moving around in VR. So the next thing is, this is what we came up with first. This was the very first, I want to say a month or two of work of just trying to get the kinematics working for when you punch a dude and making it feel realistic. And as you can see, our models are just basic Unity models because we're just trying to get this thing working. So here you can see our little ninja guy. He actually jumps around, rolls, and that kind of thing. So we wanted to do different kinds of enemies in the game. And what we ran into is that just the models alone, just people were like, "What? Why are they like this?" And it just kind of, again, dropped out that immersion from the players. So that's when these miracles of Morph 3D came in, where we have this base model, and now instead of telling someone to spend 80 hours on a 3D model, we can now, instead of paying them $3,000 or $4,000 for a professional to do it, we can just have them spend 2 or 3 hours building a model, and then we can just go through the character creation system, and then put that on our character, which allows us for very fast prototyping. Just seeing even does this work? Does this fit the art style? Does it work with kind of colors that we have in the game? And it's very easy just with Morph to even just have this same thing and then make it look unique by just flipping colors on the character. So here, this hair here, so with Morph, they have all these different types of hairs you can do, and what we do is, so for certain enemy types, we have them with a certain outfit, so that way oh, they're going to attack me with this style. So this is one of the basic grunts, and actually in our demo today, we only have the basic grunts that just kind of come up to you and punch you. And so anyway, we kind of give them that punk look to give you that 80s feel that we're going for with Streets of Rage and Double Dragon. So as you can see, like we bring a lot of enemies onto the screen, and at first it was a bit of a problem for us because we were trying to put like 20, 30 dudes on at once. The guys at Morph 3D are like, why are you doing this? But we sent them an email, and just like they said, they responded, and within like, I want to say we started working with it in December, and by January, February, they already had done all these upgrades to where like some of these things increased by like 500% reduction in these load times. So it's just very heavily supported, which makes us want to continue to use it. And developers are very feedback friendly. Like these guys are begging you to try it out and give them this feedback so they can continue to work on it. And that's like my personal testament for Morph 3D is just how well supported it is, and then how easy it is to integrate into our game and get these enemies up and running. So here we kind of have this will play again. But you saw, why is it doing that? All right, so anyway, but we have this go, 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 just like you would see on top of the screen. So it kind of shows the user where they're supposed to go next. So here, this was like a thing we wanted to test out where we didn't want you to have to do UI where your screen gets red or like everything starts to get dark as you lose health. So we're like, well, what if we just put it on the hands? So great concept, doesn't work at all. People have no idea it's there. Like you tell them about it, and they're like, what? And it's this exact reaction where you're like, you're talking to them while they're playing, and you're like, hey, your stuff is on your fist, and they're like, okay. And then they just start punching again and never look at it again. So people right now when they play, just because this is how we have the UI, they just kind of punch and hope for the best. So if you have any suggestions for that, let me know. Because the problem we're definitely still trying to solve of how to let you know like when your power-up's ready, as well as like how much health you have when you get hit. So here you can kind of see these little white lines. That's us trying to show you that, hey, you hit this guy, we have some sound feedback. But even that, it just hasn't been enough. So some people even say they can't tell whether or not they punched someone. So we just need to do even more and kind of do even more exaggerated. So if you've ever seen a game, Robo Recall, like it's very arcadey in the sense that like everything you do has this over-exaggerated kind of feedback. And I feel like they went that way just because not only is it really fun, but that's how you can give really good feedback in VR right now, is to just do the kind of over-exaggerated, give the user as much feedback as possible. That way when they do something, they know they did it without a doubt. And just being like, oh, well, we make this little light glow, or we give you this sound, that really isn't enough. You really have to do like 6 different things, and they might notice one of them, but the user will catch on to at least 1 or 2 of those, and then as they play, they'll recognize it. So again, like I said, we're still working on these UI problems. So one issue we originally had is on the awake method, if you're familiar with Unity at all, which is when you have a game object and you instantiate it. The loading, when we try and load in like 30 guys and then like, turn them on all at once, we would see some frame rate drops when we did that. So what we did now is we've gone doing some pre-caching, where we kind of turn them on, let it load everything, and if there's a shared asset, we'll put that into a cache, and that way they're kind of using the same thing, especially if it's the same color. So we do some randomization with color, but we're still kind of tweaking that right now, so it's not super varied, but we're just kind of playing around with it and see how it works. And another thing is that when you pull a morph model, and by the way, it's not a morph problem, it's a Unity problem. I figured this out after like 2 months of trying to figure this out. But when you pull them in and you start putting them, rigging them up for IK, their mouth will just kind of hang. Like this, like they're trying to eat you, or like there's some kind of dead fish. And so what we found out is that the default for Unity is in the animations. So animations have like all these different little features and stuff you can do. And the default is for the mouth to be open. I have no idea why that is or why they chose it to be that way, but that's just the default. So what we had to go in and do is like, we had to put a mask on the head and just make it, create a fake animation that all it did was shut the mouth. So that was a fun one. So if you ever run into that problem, the BostonVR Slack, or kind of any problem, I'm more than willing to come in and help and answer any kind of questions you have while developing with Morph, because I've spent a whole lot of time with it as of late. So here's some of the fun stuff we're doing, kind of playing around with weapons. So this right here is a bat. So you kind of hit the guy with the bat breaks, something like that, and then you can go in and stab him with it after. So we also are playing around with those little robot enemies. So this is our dancing robo bud. He's just kind of, that's his attack pattern, but we're still kind of playing around with that, but it looks kind of cool, like he is dancing. So right now we've called the animation controller dancing. So how are we going to release this? And so the very first one I showed, just the guys in the dojo with the, that was actually enough for us to get greenlit on Steam. So we went to Boston Festival of Indie Games and we promoted the hell out of it beforehand and launched it on Steam Greenlight that same day. And we had a lot of people that came up and said, like, this is like my favorite game of the whole show. And we were sponsors, so we actually couldn't like take the little votes. And like, it would have been nice to win that award, but it didn't happen because we had paid too much apparently. So we are greenlit on Steam. So that's, but what we've done is people actually come to us at conferences like PAX South, which we've been to, SVVR, VRLA, those kind of things. And they're like, how can I buy this right now? And you hear that enough times and you're like, all right, so we didn't want to release it on Steam, because if you put a bad game out on Steam, you get negative reviews and your game's done for. So what we did do is we allowed people who like, all right, if you really want to do this, we'll give you a discounted rate, you can buy into it, and what we'll give you is that you can get access to our private forums, you can give us feedback, tell us what's wrong, we'll suggest things, we'll come in and fix it, and you get all the updates as we build them out. So we're actually going to put a new one out in the next like 3-4 days, if you do decide to, but this is really only if you really want to be involved in the development process. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend that you purchase an incomplete game, because we have a lot of work to do as far as adding animations and giving like multiple, because right now all the dudes, they just do this. Punch. And what we really want to do is have them be a lot more aware to back up, to do like different types of punches, elbows, kicks, those kinds of things. And the IK, we have it just aim for your head. So you actually can like duck out of the way. It's actually really hard to do because the IK just like targets your head, and the animation's so fast that by the time the hand gets there, if you haven't already started to move before the guy even punches, you're probably done for. But you can actually take a lot of punches. Your dude's pretty heavy. So we are on itch.io. I'll have some cards about that. And in the fall, like later this year, we plan to release on Steam Early Access. But now what I kind of want to do is kind of say like what else is out there. So there's a Vive port, and what this does is they're actually trying to do like non-game kind of stuff. But they're also trying to be the go-to for VR arcades in places like China and Korea. And with that, like if I put my game on Viveport, those kind of bars and things like that can actually license out my game and give me royalties for when people play that. They're charging like $10 per for people to play it. And they're even like trying to talk about like different kinds of builds. So if I give a different experience for in the bar versus if you bought it on Steam. And of course there's the Oculus Store, and this is a new one I actually found out about at VRLA last week, is VR, so it's a VR only store, but they have some content on there and might be worth checking out, get some, and so the new one that people a lot have heard, and I want to say new to the American market, it's actually very big in the rest of the world, is Tencent. And so VR is actually taking off a lot more in China right now. And by taking off, I don't mean putting units in houses as much as the culture of wanting to go out into a cafe and be in VR while you have your coffee, or go to an arcade and kind of experience VR. And the culture is a little bit different in that the experiences and what they expect of experiences, the bar is a lot lower. So there have been over, I want to say like 10,000 kind of startups Of course, like in the year, there's only a few winners, where I think there's been like a 70% like fail rate. But the ones that are around and have stuck around are kind of becoming giants in that area and are moving into those areas that did fall. And Aaron Wang from, I think it's like Forest Capital or something, it's Outpost Capital. He actually gave a really good talk at VRLA. So if you, it was actually SVVR, but he gave a really good talk. So if you look that up, I think all the talks are public, and you can kind of get a better understanding of what that Asian market looks like right now. So here's my bonus slides. So this is actually the CEO of Sony playing VR. So he's coming up here, and he's so immersed in this escape room experience that when he goes to look into this window, he actually hits his head on the ground, which is just hilarious coming from a CEO. And he even tweeted about it later on Twitter. It was a really big thing that happened. So if you're a developer and want to get in, just take a picture of the slide. I want to go into demos, so I don't want to go through all these, but these are just kind of best practices that I learned from Oculus Connect, from John Carmack himself. And just kind of points that he went through of best practices for doing VR. Awesome.
I like the font one.
All right, so one more. All right, anyone else? 1, 2. All right, cool. Next. So for people that don't know what asynchronous space warp is, it's TLDR. Breaking down all the complexity of it is that if it realizes that it's not going to produce a frame in time, what it does is actually has a buffer of frames. It'll actually go back and display the previous frame. And we're going to 90 frames per second. That's not a problem. But what this did is allowed. This is why the minimum specs for VR dropped. So you'll even see for Oculus, it's the i3. You can actually use that processor with like a 1060 graphics card. Which is absurd when I heard that, because before you're looking at i5, i7 with the GTX 970, which is not cheap at all. But it really reduced the cost. So as a developer, if you start doing things where, like, you have a ball that has a curve, when it does that, you can actually get things where instead of doing the curve, because you're displaying the previous frame, you start getting this zigzag effect. So you just need to be aware that as a developer, that for people on the lower specs, they can end up seeing things like this. And if, for whatever reason, that like motion or animation is a very key part of your game, you'll just need to consider to turn off things and make sure that runs smoothly for people on lower specs. And so you're already here, so you are part of the community, but I just want to give people different resources and places to go on how to keep up with news in VR and where to like put your product once you have it. So once you do have a project like mine, all the different places that you can go just to get it out there, to get feedback for it. And that's one thing that's really important for us here at BostonVR, is for you to be able to come here and get feedback as well. So all these resources are out there. There's a BostonVR Slack if you need help. But again, just check these out. And so VR Champs, down there at the bottom. So we do informal hackathons. And what those are, if you think hackathon, you think big 3-day thing. Our events are just little people that are working on VR projects come in on Saturday, have their stuff, and just work on it together. So if you come in, you don't actually have to be working on a project. Sometimes people like need help on something, or they're more than comfortable teaching you how to do something if you have questions. And we just kind of want it to be a community where you can come in and learn. And again, the BostonVR Slack, I really wanted to try and get that started. So if you go to, you should have an email that has a link to it for you to get signed up. I've been sending out the invites with a 2-day delay from when people do it. And so we have BostonVR, and of course Boston AR is our sister community. So does anyone have any questions about Kung Fu Shadow Fist at all? It's pretty straightforward, punch things, yes?
Boston AR is tomorrow night at PTC.
Yes.
So everyone look it up if you haven't seen it yet. Free beer.
Get walked in. Or no, Needham.
Yeah.
Needham. Needham a car.
I think there are carpools.
All right. So welcome to our 53rd meetup. You made it. So Wafer Next already came up, but Mike, do you want to talk about these positions at all?
Yeah, sure.
Congratulations on the Google Play nomination.
Yes.
Thank you. Nominated for AR category for Google Play. Good work, trying to good team. Yeah, so anyway, at Wayfair, we're continuing to expand. You can see we have a pretty big office space here. I think we have about 3,000 employees right now with room to grow. My team specifically isn't expanding, although we are looking for junior artists to help us with scanning cleanup. And then we also on John's team looking for web developers to help us kind of build out our internal plumbing. But over time, we're hoping to kind of continue to expand the Wayfair Next team and bring in more like AR/VR developers. So kind of, keep your ears open. But at the moment, if you're a 3D programmer, you know MaxScript and Python. That's some a skill set that we're looking for specifically on our back-end development platform. So if you know anybody, send them our way. Very good, thanks. And then do we need to do the? Oh yeah, so apply at wayfair.com/careers.
So just stay up.
Yeah.
So we are sponsored by Discover Global Network. So they've generously helped us pay for things like food, and it's going to kind of keep us afloat for a while longer. But if you do know exhibitors or things like that, we're always looking for demos. Reach out to people for us and just kind of send them our way. That's what's going to keep this community going if we continue to get people to come in. And so here we have our demo fest. So there's some medical VR, our awesome Morph 3D folks.
There's no screen.
Oh, there is not?
Yeah,
Interesting. How does that happen?
Switch presentation. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Interesting. Right.
Stand by for technical difficulties.
All right. Yeah, go talk about your AR.
Yeah, all right, so I guess I'll pitch the VR/AR Association. So we're the local Boston chapter, and it's a global association. We got about 30 cities now, continuing to grow and expand. It's basically a professional organization for companies such as PCC just joined, Brookline Interactive Group just joined, so welcome to our new members. We're basically trying to bring in more large corporate sponsors that can help us support events like the MIT hack that we did, the AR in Action event, and just bring in a lot of events to Boston, as well as connect people to other opportunities that may be in different parts of the country or the world, looking for developer support, jobs, etc. So if you're interested, come see me. I finally printed some business cards for the AR/VR Association, so we'll be in touch for that, and we're trying to do another event probably June, July, to be determined. But again, we're trying to promote local companies that are in the space and connect people to the global community.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Just like we're gonna freeform it. All right.
All right. Well, yeah, just go for it.
Yeah. So the Augmented World Expo, so it's one of the largest VR/AR conventions in the world. So if you use the code BostonAR, you'll get a pretty sizable discount. It's all the way out in LA. I think it's in San Jose. So he just talked about the VR/AR Association. So the Eco Hack happened this past weekend. So did anyone compete in that? Alan, maybe? But we had some people in our group who did really well at that. And so we're going to try and bring those demos here. And next, we almost there? Nope. Weird.
We'll just use our imagination.
Yep. All right. So anyway, we're trying to get the people who were participating in that to come in to the BostonVR events and kind of show off what they did. So expect that coming up. Yeah. Yeah, no less slides. So there's an event coming up at the MIT Enterprise Forum. you'd like to talk about it?
Yeah. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Jerry Wolosenko. I'm with the MIT Enterprise Forum, and we're running an event next Wednesday at the Bartos Theater at MIT. The event is What's Real About AR/VR. We've got some interesting panelists. We have the fundamental idea is to kind of assess where the AR/VR world is right now. We've got Sarah Downey, who's a VC. We have a senior engineer from Google who's worked on Daydream. We've got Microsoft, Gavin Bauman from Microsoft, and a couple of companies that are doing, that have applications like Eric Malafew, who's done Verzoom, and actually one of the companies that presented here a few months ago called Primacy, that has a marketing advertising application that essentially they're going to share their stories about how real all this stuff is. All the members of BostonVR get a $25 discount. All you have to do when you sign up is enter in BostonVR. The website is, well, all you have to do is look for, I don't think it's on there. Yeah, just look for MIT Enterprise Forum Cambridge and events, and then you'll see the event there, and just click on that, and then you can sign up, use the code, and it's sponsored event, so we have food and drinks as well, and that's next Wednesday, May 3rd. We'd love to see you all there. Thanks very much.
So LiveWorks is a upcoming conference by PTC. So they've given us a code here for a discount on that. I think it's like $300 or $400 off. It's kind of nice. But anyway, all this is in our newsletter.
How much does that come to actually?
I actually don't know off the top of my head, so I'm not gonna. Yeah, it's a professional conference. It's during the week, so they kind of expect your company to pay for it. It's about like $1,300. But if your company will pay for you to go, then use this code. So again, we have sister company Boston AR, and so again tomorrow night PTC. So it's all the way out in Meetup. However, there are carpooling options. So if you don't have a way to get there, just go to the Meetup, and on the event page itself, you can figure out how to do the carpool. The registration for that is all there, and it's in pretty good detail. So Neil's done a really good job of kind of building that. So again, it's a nice campus, and there's carpooling options. So don't just look at your phone and be like, whoa, it's way out there, I'm not going, because you can fix that just by going on the event page. Again, carpooling exists. He's had a really hard time getting people to carpool. You'll get some people sign up, and then they're just like, oh, I couldn't go, it was too far. So again, just repeating again, there's carpooling. So other upcoming events is, again, tomorrow night, carpooling, Boston AR. And we do have the hack day that I talked about on May 13th. And Alan apparently did not add your slide, but if you want to talk about our next event at the VR Venture Cafe, I can dig it up or show people VR now. Yeah, go ahead and talk about it.
All right. I'll make it really fast because I know everybody wants to eat the pizza out there, so we'll go through it nice and fast. So, on Saturday, May 13th, we're going to be holding our monthly VR AR Hack Day, which is basically, who here is working on a VR AR project? So, I have two events that you guys are going to be interested in. The first is obviously that Hack Day where everybody just comes together at Brookline Interactive and gets to show off everything they're working on, get feedback, get suggestions, help other people, stuff like that. The second thing is this event right here, which is going to blow that out of the water. So BostonVR is partnering with the Venture Cafe. For those of you who have been very active with the community, last year, it was also in May, I think May 20th. It's the 25th, not the 26th. This is the old date. I'll make sure to update that. Okay. So it is the 25th, it's that Thursday. There's going to be about 600 people who go to this event, and we're going to be looking for VR and AR demos. So if you want to demo your stuff, there's going to be investors there. We are inviting investors to this event. Many of them have already said yes. this is definitely going to be something that you want to attend to be able to show off what you're working on, or else see what a lot of other people in the greater Boston area are working on.
Kostas, you have a question?
Yeah, is that a Thursday?
It is.
Do we have is it in the evening or during the day?
The Venture Cafe at the Cambridge Innovation Center is from 5 to 8. Demos are, I'm sorry, it's from 3 to 8. Demos are going to be from 5 to 8.
Cool.
And I'll send it out tomorrow night, the application for how to present.
Are you guys going to be live streaming that or recording that?
I believe so, I'm not sure. That's a good idea.
I'll bring this camera around.
Nice. So the next thing is a big announcement we have. So again, it's really back to back. So 5/26 is our next meetup, but immediately right after that is 6/5. But Leap Motion is going to be here. So you'll definitely want to mark this one on your calendar. And we're still working through the details on location, but we'll give you those details as soon as we have them. But it's going to be pretty awesome.
Do we know if they're going to be releasing and talking about the mobile?
I believe they have something new that they want to show, is what I'm to believe. I don't know exactly what it is because they wouldn't tell me. So like, we do have t-shirts. We don't have them with us tonight, but if you want a BostonVR t-shirt, you do? We do have them here tonight. Yeah. So just 15, 501c nonprofit. You can have it as a tax write-off if you want. And again, we have lots of ways for you to join us. And our podcast that I've been talking about for the past like 3 months is coming out next week. So stay tuned for that. It will be in our next newsletter, the link to it and everything. And so we already have 3 episodes recorded. We're doing another one tonight. So we're pretty excited about that. So you can find us on Slack, especially if you want to start or working on a VR project and want help from the community. We have a Steam group that I'm trying to get together. So if you have a Steam account, please join our Steam group. So we can start doing events with the community where we go up and play games together, or just go up and VR chat or alt space. And here's about our organization. See the slide every time. And just again, always please give us feedback. We really want to make this event as best as possible. It's for you, it's not for us. And the only way we can know if you don't like something, or you want something to be better, or you want us to bring in a certain speaker, just let us know. And we'll do our best to make it happen.
Go back 2 slides.
2 slides? No. How do I do that?
Another slide?
One more?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. So we are always looking for volunteers. So if you want to help out, just hop on again our Slack channel, and just let us know. Hey, I'm going to be there. Can I help out before? And we have plenty of stuff that we kind of last minute harebrained, try and get everything together. And if we had more people, it'd be a lot easier, and organizers wouldn't get burnt out. So thank you for Wayfair. So we can go ahead and clap for them. All right, and now it's definitely time for the demo fest. So go out and have fun and try VR stuff.
There is pizza in the kitchen.
Good job, guys. They came by the office yesterday.
This is the best BostonVR they could get.
Yeah, so it's like a last minute.
So we're like, violent. I assume you're enjoying weather.
Oh, yes. I'm enjoying
The violent delights.
I get out of VR. VR is my entertainment.
And my perception was that.
Coming up with okay, and you're going to do this what kind of prototype?
Indicate a couple guys that are
that was great. Yeah, oh, it's great. Yeah, that's for just being the
I worked in SolidWorks. So we had like configurable, content. We call it the lab. Content catalogs. But it's kind of, yeah, yeah, oh yeah. We took a different approach. We used tables. So you have dimensional data on tables. Right, and then you add formulas and stuff. Yeah, check out PTC. Check out PTC. SolidWorks. We did a lot. I had an online 3D design. Yeah, I mean, we raised a bunch of outside funding. Yeah. Tough time there. We had like parents but I mean, our but it was kind of good. So that was one but I've been in the 3D space. It kind of just trickle funding. I'm just doing consulting and like looking at get started. That's good.
It's growing.
Who knows who's going to win that?
That's a cute I go buy t-shirt. I use that for certain experience. I agree. And yeah, I have it in all these different things. So one part of it, it's like a shirt where like so originally the charity was we wanted for stuff so we're maybe this is what I
consumer reaction to it. Basically, you're selling your 6 cards.
I'm sorry.
It's still
essentially. No, I don't know cards. Yeah. We're in San Francisco, so we're starting to feels like branch because Boston, Montreal, New York. So sure. Green light feels like
Obviously, there's this requires, we have products in
Yes, new suit.
Yeah, so we're kind of, I mean, Newzoo is a bit broader. Yeah, they go we're very specific.
You've been around the block.
So system, when you say your system, is that going on that?
I mean, it's not camping there, it's friendly thing, right? And so, it's like everybody has like, you have like a dad. That's why it's gonna be a.
I will, okay.
We do, okay, so you work with,
But so that Oculus is a market. Sure. Right, because like everybody's facing the eyes, they want VR, and it's like I feel like
What people work on.
You're all one.
we're all in one building. I think it would be if it was as and it works out, it's all next to each other. So, it's like
How much are you raising? Somewhere. Right. Probably. That's
We don't. We're a bunch of. We're not.
Right.
Yeah. So,
I'm sorry. What's your name?
yeah. I got lucky.
yes, sir. We're kind of ignoring their
No.
duties.
Where our stuff's getting.
Right. Yeah, I will say that certain brands are doing better than
I'll tell you right
I found stats for the and I found I had to feel so long.
Could we raise the screen and do it right there? Well, knowing the exact numbers, HTC and you know, if I had to total those numbers, I would disclose them. I do. It's not like no, you're right about that. You're right about that. Yeah. Yeah, no. Gears doing it. Not quite that. It was at 1 million at the start. That was the big one. Yeah. It is higher. Yeah. Non-disclosures. So many of them. Right.
If you connect with it, you got it.
It comes out, it gets leaked. I will say this about Google Cardboard. It's hard to sell it here because they both keep it low cost. I mean, Gear's doing it right now. Body saves you get right, yeah. So I mean that's a more but the Gear is doing very well. They get we're trying to accommodate, I mean, because we have a wide array of clients. And then we have a lot of smaller clients who come to us and we want to help, because we understand. We have different levels of subscriptions, but we're working to improve it. So, you know, I would say that certain reports, you know, I know within your cash. And we're working to expand. Like that's actually one thing that I really want to do small reports, and I want to target small. I have a little one. Yeah, like we want to see their companies grow. Our reports range, you know, we try to be appropriate. I mean, why would if I sell it to somebody, we can do what they want. If I sell it to them, just pay. I mean, we might not sell to you. Yeah, no, companies want your relationships because they know you respond with up-to-date data. Like Sony's decision to actually was based largely on not to boast too much, but we're very proud of that. Like Sony's acting based on green light. Do you ever want to eat?
The third one's
So you guys do different stuff. Like, I don't know about but you know, we're not gonna lie, it's not gonna try and sell you a line. So I don't know. Right.